Constantly got to look down your string line and make sure your string's not fouled on any of the other ones that are down there. So doesn't matter how long the lag bolts you put in there, as long as they're long enough to get in and get some good meat, and as long as you remember how long the longest one you put in there is.
Yeah.
If you look down that log now, you can see it's got that high hump on the end there, and then it comes down pretty straight, and then it drops down into a low saddle right there, and then it comes up on a hump again. So the guide right there is 1.5 inches. The aluminum angle on there that guide's made out of is 1.5 inches. So the minimum you have to have for clearance is 1.5 inches above anything that protrudes above the surface of the log of the route where you've got it.
Okay.
So, you know, so you can bump knots off and stuff like that, but I like to keep it down as low as I can, so because the higher it is, the more torque you put on it side to side.
Right.
Plugs? All right, you want to start her up?
All right.
And make sure the chain's not down in the gravel anywhere or anything. All right, it looks good. Yeah. Turn the switch on.
No, that wouldn't be any fun.
Pull the choke out, or yeah. Don't push on the bar too hard. that motor, if it's revving up high, you need to push a little more. As soon as it starts bogging down, let off on it. Slide the guide bar up. That's good. Always want to make sure it's supported underneath the whole length of it. That's an oiler. Go ahead and pump extra oil in there every so often. I've got the oiler turned up, but go ahead and pump that. Okay. Popcorn corn, so now we need to let air circulate through it and cool off. Actually, set it down right here. Alright, now let me show you how to do this. See, we got those wedges in there. They're just past the halfway point. Now sometimes there'll be tension in the log and it'll bow this way, so it'll pinch down on that end. So you got to watch that and keep, I usually make up small wooden wedges that are not much thicker than the kerf here to stick in, because you don't want to wedge these up and put a lot of pressure on it, because that'll bend your board up and down. Okay. So anyway, I watched those. I put one in the end of there to hold that end up while we were cutting, and when we got down past the halfway point, I put these two in, took that one out, so that end would pop up when it cut loose. Okay. So now, this is too heavy to deal with, basically, but if you go like this, then you can roll it over, come over here, or get on the other end maybe. Yeah. And roll it over.
Which way?
this way. Just roll it. Oh! All right, watch out. So now you can slide this back over the top of the log. This one's too thin to do anything with, but if you wanted to get a board out of that.
Can you start the bobcat up? Cat up so you can move it?
So if you wanted to get a board out of this, we could get a 1-inch plank out of it still. You just set it up right here on this, like that, and wedge it up, set the mill up to 1-inch depth of cut, and then cut through it.
All right.
See how nice, smooth the cut. We got a couple spots here where the saw moved a little bit, but on the upper side, wherever it started bogging down, basically it was going through these knots. So you could get it bogged down.
So, you know how to get a hold of the black market table makers?
Want to make a table out of that?
They make a bar out of this.
Yeah, that thing is heavy. Well, it's thick enough to make a 1-inch plank out, 1-inch board out of it, but
you get a 2-inch out of it?
no, you can't, because the middle of it goes up like this. Yeah. But that's a nice. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Looking at it, look at that, how nice. Well, when you do this like this and take your time setting everything up, this is a better cut than they get out of the bandsaw, you know, or even the circle saw. This stuff comes out almost perfect, as good as you almost, you don't even hardly need to plane this stuff to get a nice circle. Keep going. Good. Got it? Here, come back this way. Yeah, it doesn't make too much difference on this one, not like on the bandsaw now, because we're setting our guide board up in reference to that edge over there on that side.
Yeah.
Well, there's our first face cut down that log, and that looks a lot better than I was afraid it was going to. So we've got it turned over here 90 degrees now, and tomorrow I'll get the pressure washer out and axe and debarker and stuff and clean this up so we make next cut nice and clean through clean wood. I'll get the saw ready, touch the chain up a little bit with a file, and I have to add gas and oil to it. There have been times I've cut a long log like this, cutting timbers, where I had to stop a couple of times and put gas and oil in the saw while it was still in the wood. And that puts a lot of pressure on that old saw. That gets a lot of heat buildup in it, so you got to really be aware of that and stop before it runs out of gas, so you can give the saw time to idle and cool down a little bit before you shut it off. That'll help with the longevity of the saw. So that face is pretty doggone smooth. That's straighter and smoother than what I've seen come out of almost any mill right off the mill. The bandsaw mill always winds up with some waviness in it, and the circle sawmills, I bought lumber from these guys with mobile dimension sawmills and other sawmills, and you can't get a better piece of wood out of them than you can out of here, if it's set up properly. If you take your time and set it up properly. If you get sloppy at it, you'll wind up with a piece of crap. Well, now we've got this nice clean face here, and I'll clean this top face up, rind up, and then we'll set the guide board up. And this time I'll use a framing square and square off of this side. Cut that slab off of there, and then start making cants out of it. I think it's going to turn out better than I expected. Once I got that opened up and a clean cut on this side here, there's a little bit of rod in it that'll be trimmed up, but for the most part it's in pretty good shape. And I got a nice glass of iced tea. Ah, that was good, thank you.
You're welcome.
There's looking down that face cut. That's pretty nice. Anywho, that's it. That's chainsaw milling 101.